So if you clicked on this video, you're probably an introvert, or you just really hate your job. Work feels like a performance that I never quite signed up for. Forced smiles in the hallway, endless meetings where everybody talks but nobody actually says anything. Pretending to be energized when I'm dying inside. Acting like I'm someone I'm not, just to make it through the day without being labeled antisocial or not a team player. And it's exhausting, to be honest. Not the work itself, the act of pretending. And for the longest time, I thought that there was something wrong with me. I thought I was somehow broken, defective, or not cut out for the professional world. Because everyone else just seems fine, you know? Everyone else seems to thrive in the chaos, the noise, the constant stimulation, but I didn't. I felt like I was slowly drowning in an ocean of small talk and performance expectations. It made me realize why so many introverts feel broken by work, and what it actually feels like to be yourself again, to not be performing, to not be drowning, to just be. So, if you're exhausted by the noise, the pace, the relentless pressure to perform, if you're feeling like work is slowly killing something essential inside you, this video is for you. Though I've always been different, not in an obvious way, but in the quiet ways that make you feel when you're on the outside of something everyone else seems to be understanding naturally. They fill every moment with sound, with small talk, with noise, but I've always found peace in quiet, in stillness, in the space between words. As a kid, I remember I could sit for hours under a tree, sketching, just daydreaming, or watching clouds move across the sky, while other kids chased each other around the playground, forming complicated social hierarchies that I never quite understood. And I didn't know then that there was a word for this, that millions of other people experience the world in the same way, that being wired this way wasn't a defect, it's just a different operating system. The adult world values noise. It expects everyone to always be on all the time. The workplace demands constant availability, constant engagement, constant performance, to be collaborative, which really means never needing space or quiet or time to think alone. And if you're not that person, if you need time to process, if you work better alone, if small talk feels like sandpaper on your soul, you start to feel like you are the problem. Like there's something fundamentally wrong with you, like you're failing at being an adult. You're just wired differently, and the system was never built with you in mind. So it took me years and a very unexpected job to realize how deeply my nervous system was being overstimulated by normal work. The pressure to always be on, the meetings that could have been emails, the group brainstorming sessions, the open office plans designed to maximize collaboration, but really just to maximize distraction, to be honest. The expectation to eat lunch with colleagues when all you want to do is 20 minutes of silence. The constant performance of being someone that you're not. But it wasn't until that receptionist job, until I had something to compare it with, that I realized the truth. I wasn't tired because I was lazy, and I wasn't drained because I lacked work ethic. I was exhausted because I was constantly pretending, performing, wearing a mask of extroversion that didn't fit. And I'd been doing it for so long that I had forgotten what it felt like to be myself. It is not designed to accommodate different personality types equally. The workplace is built around what Susan Cain calls the extrovert ideal. It's the assumption that collaboration is always better than solitary work, that brainstorming in groups produces better ideas than thinking alone, that open offices are more innovative than private space for focus. It's the idea that the ideal employee is assertive, comfortable with self-promotion, energized by constant social interaction, and able to think on their feet in real time. You see, the performance we're expected to give is that we have to do it. We fake it, we perform. We sit in open-plan offices that feel like sensory torture chambers where every conversation is a distraction. Every phone call pulls your focus. We attend after-work happy hours not because we want to, but because being absent gets you labeled not a team player. And we practice speaking up first in meetings because waiting until you fully thought something through means someone else will say it first. We perform confidence we don't feel, energy we don't have, enthusiasm that isn't real, all because the system rewards extroversion and punishes introversion. But here's what the system gets wrong. Introverts are not antisocial. Shyness and introversion are completely different things. We need time to think before speaking, space to work without constant interruption, meaningful one-on-one conversations rather than superficial group chatter. We have just as much to contribute as extroverts, sometimes even more, but we contribute differently. Now, most jobs aren't just draining for introverts, they're actively hostile. The pace is just too fast, constant switching between tasks, no time for deep focus. The noise is too constant. Open offices, back-to-back meetings, always-on communication. I used to think that I was bad at my job because I couldn't keep up with all the chatter, because I wasn't first to speak in meetings, because I'd go home after work completely drained, not from the work itself, but from the performance. I would collapse on my couch, unable to do anything but stare at my phone, too depleted to pursue my own interests, to work on my own projects, to engage with my family. I was just feeling empty, and I blamed myself for the longest time because, you see, I thought I was weak, lazy, or not ambitious enough. But it turns out I wasn't failing. It was built for someone who gains energy from social interaction instead of losing it. You see, I was trying to run a race in someone else's shoes and wondering why my feet hurt. So last year, I was in between consulting assignments, just waiting, sort of in limbo. It's a receptionist position, just until something better comes along. And I thought, a receptionist? After years of consultant work, of, strategic initiatives, of stakeholder management, after building up this resume, this professional identity, my first instinct was embarrassment. But instead, it turned out to be the most peaceful 3 months I had in a decade. And what that job actually was just showing up at 8 a.m. and sit in the front desk and answer phones when it rang, maybe 3 or 4 times a day, let the truck drivers in by pressing a button, essentially, and greet the occasional visitor, reply to a few emails, keep the lobby tidy, and that was it. That was the entire job. And most of the time, I was completely alone. There were no meetings, no deadline looming, no performance reviews, no emails requiring immediate responses, no boss checking in every hour, no pressure to be on. They even told me to bring a book, and I would sometimes read during the quiet stretches, and I scribbled down ideas in a notebook. I looked out the window, and I was just thinking, I was processing, daydreaming, and it sort of felt like existing without performing. It was bliss, because for the first time in years, maybe since childhood, I could actually breathe. You see, my nervous system, it wasn't on high alert anymore. I wasn't spending Sunday night with a knot in my stomach. I wasn't spending the commute home replaying every interaction, analyzing everything I had said, wondering if I came across wrong or if I was too quiet. I was basically myself. And that's when it hit me, I'm not disengaged. I'm not fragile. I'm not weird or antisocial or bad at professional life. I'm just introverted. And this was the first job in my entire adult life that didn't punish me for it. The first job that let me be myself instead of demanding I perform someone else. And the irony is that this job looked like a step backward that I was embarrassed to take, but it gave me something that no prestigious consulting position ever did. It gave me peace, it gave me energy, it gave me back parts of myself that I thought I had lost. I started writing, pursuing projects I actually cared about, because I wasn't coming home completely depleted. And for 3 months, I remember what it felt like to not be exhausted all the time, to have energy for my own life, not just for performing at work. And when that assignment ended, when I went back to the real work, I realized that I would never be the same again. Because now I knew, now I tasted what it felt like to work in a way that didn't drain me. And I couldn't pretend anymore that the problem was me. It was the system. So one of the funny things about the receptionist job, and it's sort of the absurdity of it that became very obvious pretty quickly. Like, imagine this, truck drivers had to call in to get through the gates. It was just theater. The appearance of security without any actual security. It wasn't, because that's the truth, that the uncomfortable truth of modern work is that much of it is actually pointless. Tasks created for the sake of having tasks, reports that no one reads, initiatives that everyone knows will be abandoned someday, processes that exist only because that's how we always do it. And here's what gets worse for introverts. All that performative chaos, all that busy work and theater, it's not just annoying or wasteful, it's a direct assault on your nervous system. Every moment of performance takes something from you that you'll need hours of solitude to recover. You're not just doing the work, you're doing the work while also managing the constant overstimulation of an environment designed for someone with a completely different nervous system. It's like trying to sleep in a nightclub. Sure, you could probably manage it eventually, but you would wake up exhausted, not because sleep is hard, but because the environment is hostile. That's what most jobs are for introverts. Nightclubs, where we're trying to do deep, focused, meaningful work. And if you feel like you're barely holding it together, if you're exhausted in ways that sleep doesn't fix, it might not be because you're doing something wrong. It might be because your entire job is a maze you were never meant to run. A game designed for someone else's strengths, someone else's nervous system. So the truth is that I never put that receptionist job on my resume. It just didn't fit the story I was supposed to tell, the narrative of constant career progression. But that job gave me something more valuable than a bullet point on LinkedIn, more valuable than any title or consulting project. It gave me clarity and self-respect in a way, because it reminded me of who I am, without the noise, without the mess, without the performance. It showed me that I'm not broken, that introversion isn't a weakness, that needing quiet and space doesn't make me defective. It makes me different, and different is okay. You see, I know you might be thinking, well, why don't I just get a job as a full-time receptionist? But that's not the lesson here. And the thing is that for those 3 months, it existed for me, and I felt like myself again, not the corporate version, not the performing version, just me. And that matters more than any career achievement I've ever had. Now, sadly, I'm back, at staring at spreadsheets, at regular jobs, back to feeling that pressure creeping in again, that weight of expectations, that performance of competence, that exhaustion. But something is different. I'm not the same as I used to be because I've seen another way. And once you've tasted what it feels like to work in a way that doesn't slowly kill you, you can't fully go back to accepting the cage as normal. So my question for you is, what would it look like to build a life that actually fits you? Not the life you're supposed to want, not the career path that someone else told you to follow, but a life that fits your actual nervous system, your actual needs, your actual way of being. For me, that quiet receptionist desk gave me clues, I need minimal social stimulation. I need time alone to think. I need work that doesn't require constant performance. Maybe it's like working in a quiet library or writing code remotely where you interact with humans very minimally. But the honest truth here is that not all jobs are hell for introverts, but let's be very honest here, most of them are. Most of them will slowly drain you, slowly erode your sense of self, slowly make you believe that you're the problem. So you can start small, just start protecting your peace. Start finding pockets of calm within the chaos. Start building slowly towards something that fits better.